All right, we're on to the NFL draft host, the Green Bay Packers. Packers kick things off. They had a trade down opportunity, but as we theorized, there's no way. You can't trade down when there's 200,000 people there.
I'm not buying that.
Got to make a pick. Matthew Golden, we got to get to, he's chosen his number, by the way, which was a bit alarming. We'll talk about that in a minute. Matthew Golden in the first. They get Anthony Belton in the second round, the tackle from NC State. Third round pick, one of your favorites, Savion Williams, the wide receiver out of TCU, maybe wide receiver / running back. Barryn Sorrell from Texas, edge rusher in the fourth. Colin Oliver, he might be listed as a linebacker, but he was a pass rushing edge at Oklahoma State, undersized edge rusher. I think that's what he is and should be at the next level. To get him in the fifth, Warren Brinson from Georgia in the sixth, and a couple other seventh round picks, Micah Robinson, the corner out of Tulane, and John Williams, Cincinnati offensive lineman. What were your thoughts on the Packers draft, Sam?
Yeah, kind of interesting draft. Well, again, wasn't one of my favorite drafts. It was another sort of down the middle type of one. Matthew Golden's going to be a fascinating receiver prospect for them. Like they finally draft their number one, their first round wide receiver that they haven't drafted since Javon Walker back at the turn of the millennium. And they end up doing it for a wide receiver that might be a number one, might not be a number one. We don't really know. Golden is a fascinating prospect, right? Independent of the 4.29 speed thing, which may or may not be real. He's a great route runner. He's got some really good skills as a receiver, good body control, good, able to contort, able to make plays at the catch point. But he's got a pretty small sample size of being like an elite number one guy. He wasn't the number one guy at Texas for the majority of the season. And then Isaiah Bond gets hurt. He takes over and he goes off in the college football playoffs. And I don't think anyone has said he plays like a 4.29 guy either. So he's probably a functional 4.4 guy who may or may not be an X receiver, who may or may not have the capacity to be a number one, who joins an otherwise well-stocked receiving core with a bunch of those guys. So it's kind of fascinating. I don't know if they're banking on like the small range of outcomes that he becomes that true number one X receiver, or if they're just saying he's a good number two and we don't care that we have 4 good number twos. That's good team building.
I mean, I'm always an advocate for wide receiver depth. You know that. Green Bay is it's an interesting franchise in that they've been very consistent in their ways through the years, and they have evaluated, much like the Steelers, drafted and developed a lot of receivers through the years, even without investing in the first rounder since Javon Walker in 2002. And so through one sense, it's like, well, if the Packers are willing to go in the first round, maybe Golden's great. And there's a lot of people that absolutely loved Matthew Golden. I think he's a really nice route runner, really smooth, gets in and out of breaks, catches the ball pretty well. And he gets thrown into the mix here with Romeo Doubs, with Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, Christian Watson. I think his skill set's closest to Doubs, but if they find a way to get the speed to play, it's kind of a combo of Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. If they could get the 4.29 to show up, because every one of those other receivers has something different, right? Jaden Reed is your slot, shifty guy, jet sweep, right, running over routes. Dontavian Wicks is your big-bodied receiver. Watson's your pure deep threat. And Doubs is just kind of like, hey, you're a good route runner, right? And I feel like Golden is your good – he's like Doubs, but if they could get the speed to play, he's got a hint of Christian Watson. And I think that's fine. Like we talk about a wide receiver one all the time. And for me, that means it's like the 12 to 15 guys in the NFL, but really the 5 or 6 guys in the NFL that absolutely change the calculus of the defense. It's not just the top receiver on any given team. I don't care if the Packers have a top receiver. Like, would it be better if they had A.J. Brown or Tyreek Hill? Yes. But they're 5 deep at receiver with various skill sets, and I think they can make that all work. So I don't know that there's even a ton of pressure on Golden. I think he's just going to go out there, be solid, and they have another solid option with a first-round receiver here in Matthew Golden.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's difficult to know what they believe he will be going forward, and I'm not sure it matters to a huge degree. And you're certainly not going to know that from listening to them post-draft, because they'll lie, right? Like, they're not going to give you an accurate representation of what they think, because nobody does. But like if they're sort of taking him here because they're banking on him potentially being the missing thing in this receiving core, then I don't know that I love it. If they're just taking him here because they think he's another good receiver that can be added to a receiving core that has good receivers, and those players are worth mid first round draft picks, then cool, that's fine. I think that's entirely defensible. I mean, that's basically what the Bucks did, right? With Emeka Ibuka, same kind of idea. So there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's just interesting because Golden is this unknown quantity.
Question in the chat about which of the Green Bay top 5 receivers would I move on from first? Maybe Dobbs because of Golden now. Maybe a Romeo Dobbs. It's ironic because in my notes I said he reminds me of Romeo Dobbs. Right, that was just one of the comps that came to mind. He's good, solid, good, does everything well, route running in particular. Probably Dobbs because the other skill sets are unique. Maybe Watson, though, because of the injuries and inconsistency from him.
I would cut bait on Dontavian Wicks for not breaking out when I thought he would break out.
You're mad at him. He's going to keep you coming back, though. He's going to keep you coming back. So Golden in the first for the Packers. Anthony Belton, I thought, again, developmental offensive tackle, but him in particular, just an absolute monster. He is really, really strong. And you could kind of, I thought he grew as the season went on at NC State from a pass protection standpoint. I think he's got maybe a potential to kick into guard, but he's got tackle potential and not a path to the field just yet. But you've got Rasheed Walker at left tackle, who they stole in the 7th round, turned him into a starter. He's a case where they seem to like him. He's played pretty well. The PFF grades have been a little bit lower maybe than perception on him. Are they going to end up paying him? Is Belton going to replace? So there's some contingency there, I think, which is nice. And, Packers just loading up on more offensive line depth there.
And they've got an incredible record now of developing offensive linemen. I mean, we've talked about this before. If you think you actually have an edge at a certain position, right, you're able to churn out various positions better than other teams, then take advantage of that. I mean, guys, Jalen Moore got $15 million a year based off a couple of spot fill-in roles for Trent Williams. Dan Moore Jr. got $20 million a year based off being a marginal starting left tackle and then a train wreck if he has to play Myles Garrett. Like Rasheed Walker could get $20 million a year plus for being, a reasonable caliber starting left tackle. But if the Packers think they can draft the guy in the mid rounds and replace him with the same caliber player without having to pay $20 million a year to do it, that's a huge advantage over other teams.
Hey guys, just taking a quick break to tell you, hey, just over 50% of you are still unsubscribed to Check the Mic. It helps the channel. It helps to make sure that you don't miss any of our shows. So if you have a chance, hit the subscribe button right now. Absolutely. So not a bad pick in the second. By the way, if we're looking at reaches and everything, that's probably higher. He went at pick 54. What was my consensus board had him at 94. I assume a Reefs is going to call that probably a reach. I think the PFF board had him at 98. So 54 overall is a lot higher than I think the expectation was on Belton. And then if you want to rave about Savion Williams, and then I'll talk about the edge rushers.
Yeah, I do. I mean, look, we did that video before the draft, right? 28 people and us, so 30 total, pitching their favorite player in the draft. I mean, we had a handful, but Savion Williams is one of my favorite players in this draft. TCU wide receiver / running back, the closest thing you're going to find to just drafting an athlete. The way colleges recruit athletes, and we'll figure out what position he plays later. Savion Williams is just an athlete. He is not a refined wide receiver. He's not a refined running back. He's just a baller. It's like 6'5", 225 pounds, dynamic, explosive, incredibly inconsistent. I mean, there are some plays where he looks like Randy Moss, just destroying people at the catch point. And then the next play, it's looked like he never caught a football in his life. Like he just stone-handed, like bad hand position, just awful. So complete project. And in a role where the NFL is generally still not great at those guys, right? Taking weird tweener athlete, offensive weapon, trademark symbol. Like the NFL still pretty much stinks at those guys. So on the one hand, like it's a classic head versus heart. My head is saying, don't touch those guys. They don't work out. You're being a fool. You've been burned too many times before. Walk away. Let somebody else take the risk. My heart is saying, I love that dude, and I want to find a way of making it work in the offense.
What do you think happens there? Because we just described their entire receiving core when we were talking about Golden, and I kind of forgot to even put Savion in there. Does he add another skill set as big-bodied receiver, or do you think they play the hybrid role and he's competing for running back 2 snaps here behind Josh Jacobs?
I think he will be primarily, I think it will look like Randall Cobb or less Percy Harvin, but Randall Cobb, where it's like he'll play wide receiver primarily, and I think he might eat into Christian Watson's playing time, but like the vertical outside threat. And then I think every now and again you're going to motion him into the backfield, and he gets a running back Randall Cobb, Percy Harvin carry.
I like it. Couple interesting names on the edge. Barryn Sorrell from Texas had 51 pressures for them last year. I think he's just a good addition to the defensive line rotation there. And then Colin
Jack
Oliver,
of all trades type.
Yeah. You have anything else on Sorrell?
No, I mean, like you said, you're right. Jack of all trades type of defensive lineman, 6'3", 255-ish. Just solid, pretty good at everything. A lot of people quite liked him. Just a decent addition day 3. Doesn't like nothing wows, but I think he's a good player. Yeah,
Colin Oliver was the one that was really interesting to me. He was a very productive edge rusher at Oklahoma State. Moved him to linebacker, but he's been back and forth.
You think he's an edge rusher?
I think he's an edge. Yeah, he weighs. I mean, if you just want to let him rush the passer, he's 6'2", 240, but ran a 4.56. 157, so 93rd percentile among edges get off, 10-yard split, 96th percentile vertical, 93rd percentile broad. He's got bend around the edge. So he's in that undersized, I mean, in the 5th round, you just let him go be a designated pass rusher and see what happens, in my mind.
I think he's a linebacker. I don't think he's an edge rusher.
I thought what was his PFF grade of 90 rushing the passer last year? He was in the 80s the year before when he was they moved him to linebacker last year. He was back and forth, but last year, early in the season, before he got hurt, he had a huge pop to the quarterback, led to a pick 6 against Arkansas. Like, that dude can bend.
Oh, he's explosive, he's fast, he's got bend, but he's not refined at all, and he's got zero power to his play on the defensive line. Like, he is dead on contact, and that I just don't think that works. Like, we talked about those hybrid players. Jalen Walker's not dead on contact. He has power. Like, he can operate on the defensive line with power and be fine. Other undersized players, they've got the power to play there. I don't think. I mean, maybe you can have him there as a true designated pass rusher where you are only playing with speed. Do not even attempt to engage. But if he gets touched, it's game over. So yeah, I think you can play him at linebacker and have him with the sort of Devin White blitz package, right? Where you're a linebacker, but we're going to have you firing gaps.
I'd be good with that
as an add-on rusher.
Yeah, I'd be good with that too. I don't think they just don't really have that kind of juice, right? Rashawn Gary's a power rusher, and Lucas Van Ness is a power guy, and they don't have a ton of that. And even like a Carl Brooks is a hybrid defensive tackle, defensive end. Warren Brinson as well added to the rotation here. So they've added some depth there on the defensive line. I don't think besides Gary, there's not a lot of star power there. That's why I'm saying, hey, if Oliver can just add some juice off the edge. Did I miss Brenton Cox as well? There's still Brenton Cox here. I may have, but either way, I think there's him and Sorrell have a chance to get on the field and do some damage. So that's it. That's all I got on the Packers. It is fascinating to me that the Packers always seem to double up at positions. They just have this history of 3 wide receiver drafts or 2 cornerback drafts when they seem to have a need. So 2 wide receivers in this one, 2 tackles in this one. If Oliver's an edge, it's 2 edges. It's just funny how they always seem to double up. And I think that's a big reason why they end up they double up at different positions every year. They end up with really good depth on their roster.
And there's some hybridization with their players, right? They're perfectly happy to move offensive linemen around when they draft those guys. Savion Williams could be a wide receiver or a running back or both at the same time. Colin Oliver could be a linebacker or an edge or some kind of hybrid role where you play linebacker, but we're going to blitz you a ton. Like they seem to like and Carl Brooks was a tweener, right? He was a 300-pound edge rusher who then worked out like neither and ended up like they seem to be fine with taking these players that don't seem to have quite a natural fit, a prototype.
The one thing we mentioned with Detroit is, hey, they didn't invest heavily at edge early in the draft. The Packers not taking a corner early when we had expected, hey, maybe they're going to be in the cornerback market. What's going to happen with Jair Alexander? Even if Jair is not there, they have Nate Hobbs, Keyshawn Nixon, Javon Bullard, some hybrid slot type of players. What are they going to do? Didn't really invest heavily. Not sure what that means for the future here. By the way, my annual reminder that like the Eagles picked up James Bradbury after the draft in 2022 on their way to the Super Bowl. Like there are starters still available every now and again after getting cut after the draft. So it's not all out. But yeah, I know Nate Hobbs has done his best work in the slot, not outside. So
yeah,
they have him outside, maybe Keyshawn Nixon outside if they end up trading Jair.
Yeah, I mean, we've mentioned this before, right? They've got a collection of these guys that all seem to operate at their best in the slot, but maybe they're just prepared to say these guys are going to play outside for us. I mean, it also sort of fits that position movement type of thing they seem to be reasonably comfortable with.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.